were the secrets of the success of Yemi Farounbi's tenure as General Manager of Western Nigeria Television, WNTV, which metamorphosed to NTA Ibadan. What made his tenure the most eventful and impactful ever? What did he do differently that endeared him to the hearts of most staff at the station? What made him stand out as GM and as a mentor to many even till now? Listen to part 2 of my conversation with Yemi Farounbi, a broadcast media administrator of uncommon charisma.
So that kind of thing gave the staff the confidence. And we have 1 or 2 instances we had conflicts with government. There was a great instance. Louis Lekan Alabi now was a reporter. He went to do an investigative report at Ilesha about the water scheme there that appeared not to be going as promised. On his way back, the Tifang, he saw the convoy of the military administrator for Tapa. And he thought that was unusual. Where will the administrator be going? The newsman in him told him he should turn around and follow the administrator and see whether he can make news additional to his primary assignment, which he did. Turn started following. Of course, you know, the convoy moves very fast. Eventually discovered that the convoy was heading to Obafemi Awolowo University, and that the administrator was going to deliver a speech there. Of course, we've not been informed, even as a station, but how would have made arrangement to cover it. So he got there late. Of course, at this time, there was no video. We were using the CP, the film. So, before he arranged his vehicle, his cables, the camera, and so on, it meant that the administrator had to stop his speech to allow him to do what he wanted to do. So, he covered the event. Administrator came back to Ibadan, already angry that one bloody civilian interrupted his speech. But he saw it was NTV Ibadan. Okay? So, come 7 o'clock news, he was waiting to see the story. There was no story. So he got angry. Next morning, he sent his people to go and bring the bloody reporter that not only interrupted his speech, but ended up not even using the story. So when the military boys came and went to the newsroom, they told him that he should go and talk to the GM first. So he came, he told me, the administrator had asked him to go and arrest the reporter and the cameraman for being decent and civil. So I said, okay. So I called Fabio Lanipe, who was the acting manager, and he said, let's go. So we followed them. So we got to the office of the military administrator. He was a brigadier there. I think he retired as a general. He was a colonel then, yeah. Colonel Paul Tapper, and everybody feared him for his horse whip.
That's right.
So I entered there. He said, "Where is the reporter?" I said, "I was the reporter." He said, "Where's the camera?" I said, "That." He said, "No, I didn't see you there." I said, "Yeah. You're angry that the reporter came late, yeah? He had to come late because I sent him late." I said, "You ought to be commending that reporter because your press crew did not inform us." So he called the chief press secretary. No, I think it was just called press secretary. And that one I admitted I didn't inform us. So the man was just creative, was innovative, was going out of his shadow to cover you. And do you know that we have to process the film, then we have to edit it, so we are only using it today. They just looked at me. Go, get out of my office. So we left. I didn't tell the story to Louis Alabi until about 4 or 5 years ago. He just came back, he said, what happened? I said, continue to do your job. Just make sure you process and edit the news well. So, because of the kind of protection we gave to our own staff, they ordinarily were motivated and excited to work. You know, they had a freedom that any true journalist would love to have. And they knew that if anything went wrong, I would not sacrifice them. I'd rather sacrifice myself than them. So, for whatever reason, they thought I should leave. And they now said, this was NT Ibadan. Yeah, this man from Ondo State. He's an Ekiti man. Send him back to Akure. I just sent me to Akure. But before I left, because they made the announcement on December 31st, without a letter, they made an announcement in Network News, which was good. But what can we do? So I was preparing my thing. They said I should report by 15 January latest. Somehow some other thing happened. There was a secretary to the government of the Federation, Sheikh Musa, who was made the Bakaman bidder after he was appointed secretary to the government. And people were wondering, how will he combine his traditional title with that government thing? And you know, the boys in the newsroom, very creative people, very great. Biodun Oladekomo, Biodun Sotubi, Femi Idowu, I can't even remember all of them now, but they were fantastic. They decided they must interview. So they went and interviewed him. How do you combine your traditional role to the role of being the secretary to the federal government? And they did a good interview, which we broadcast and then gave him a copy. So when he was now being banned, we sent a crew to cover it. And covered it and gave him a copy. So when he had been transferred, he said, no, it can't be that GM. If that GM is said to be UPN, he will have been blackmailing him, becoming a Makaman, and not sent a crew to intervene. So he intervened and said what was wrong. He said nothing was wrong, they were just posting me back to my state. So he sent words to me that you are being sent to your state. I said, I'm not from Ondo State. They ought to know that. They have my father. I'm Orai Gumina. At that time, it was the local government of Oyo State. But you know, in office politics, truth and falsehood are equal and opposite. So the man got angry. So they now sent signal to me not to go. So they sent the special advisor to come and see me on the 15th. I ought to report. And he came. And I took him round. And he said, let's go to your office. He said, it's been decided that you will not go. Or you have to write a petition that you are not from Ondo State. So they cannot stay. He said, I will write a petition. Because I didn't transfer myself. You people transferred me, had my father. So if you committed a mistake, you should apologize to me. I was not going to. He appealed to me, he did everything. I said no. He said, yeah, you're too stubborn. I said, it's not a question of being stubborn. Why would I petition against a decision where you have admitted you are wrong? I said, by opting to work in NTA, I knew I could be transferred anywhere. So it's okay by me to transfer. But that's how I left to Akure. So I was a victim of office politics, an area in which I even wrote a book.